Good morning. Today we're going to talk about dreams. Do we believe in dreams? In Hebrew, chaloimus. There's an expression that's used very often when you want to say that something is a baba maisa. Baba maisa is an expression in itself as well, which means a story from the grandmother, or as they say, it's like fairy tales. Or people want to discount something and they'll say, it's a baba maisa, it's a fairy tale. Another way to say it's a fairy tale, or it's nonsense, or it's fill in the blank, is by saying chaloimus, dreams. Just like dreams are just the imagination. Similarly, whatever you just heard, or the story that you're said, or the excuse that your friend is telling you, it's dreams. But our question today, in the little time that we have together, is do we believe in dreams? Is it really chaloimus? Maybe there is something to dreams. We know that Pharaoh had interpretations to his dreams, came out to be pretty accurate. Hunger years, good years. We know that Yosef had dreams and came out to be pretty accurate. There are stories about dreams. But practically speaking, how should we look at dreams in our own lives? You had a great dream last night. You had a scary dream last night. You had perhaps multiple nights the same dream. How do you view it? Should you be afraid? Should you be concerned? What's the Jewish view? So let's explore that a little bit. Something is to be said when a person wakes up in the morning and they have a very vivid dream. In other words, they remember the dream. They know exactly what it was. They could, at least to a great extent, they could retell in detail what the dream was like. And it bothers them. They're afraid or they're anxious. How do you deal with it? So for starters, I want to say that the Talmud tells us that dreams are really nonsense. In other words, today, dreams are not something which we pay attention to. Why do we say that? Because what you think about by day, that's what you're going to dream about by night. And here's how it works. When a person goes to sleep, your body is at rest. It actually says that you're 1/60th dead. It's one of the reasons why we wake up in the morning, we wash Negelwasser to get rid of impurities. Because the nature of impurity is that it seeks areas of holiness to get some kind of its sustenance, some kind of its energy. So when a person goes to sleep and your soul leaves the body to a certain extent, you're not dead, thank God, but you're 1/60th, a certain percentage, you're not fully alive, and that soul leaves, or part of the soul leaves the body, it's automatically replaced by a certain impurity that's looking for that leftover holy energy from the soul. In the morning, take care, F.R.E.E. In the morning, a person wakes up, that our soul comes back fully. That's why we thank God for restoring our life. Some people, unfortunately, don't wake up. And that impurity is gone, but it remains in our wrists, our hands, all the way till our wrist. That's why we wash our hands ritually before we actually get out of bed. You prepare Negelwasser. It's a basin with a cup with some water, and you wash your hands about waking up in the morning. But the idea is that your body is asleep. It's not functioning properly. Specifically, your intellectual faculties, your rational faculties, I should say, the part of you that says, hey, that's impossible, or the moment some thought enters your mind and you tell yourself, that's nonsense, that's only if you're awake. But if you're sleeping, your rationale, which is going to control or limit or help you frame whatever you're thinking of, is sleeping. What's very much alive is your imagination, and that's running on full speed. By the way, your thoughts never ever stop. Actions stop. You don't do something the whole time necessarily, right? Speech, you don't speak the whole time. Thoughts never stop. You could decide what you're thinking about. We believe you can control your thoughts. They're extremely important, but you don't control the fact that you're thinking. So a person goes to sleep. His imagination is running wild. He's thinking all these stuff. By the way, hello to all those that are watching. You're welcome to ask questions. We'll try to answer them. If you're watching it on the replay, you're welcome to put comments in. If you're on YouTube, click subscribe. The idea is that your imagination is very much awake, although you're sleeping, and it's coming up with these crazy ideas. And your rational part of your brain is not telling you, hey, stop that. That makes no sense. That'll never happen. And as a result, you have these crazy dreams. So we're told that what you think about by day, when you go to sleep, it's your imagination is cooking it, and it's starting to come up with all these ideas, and you see it. And sometimes you feel it really, really, that it's real. So we look at the dream and we say it's nothing. Don't pay attention to it. However, at the same time, in the back of the siddur, in the back of the prayer book, there is a certain prayer called Hatavas Cholim. It's a procedure. If a person had a very bad dream, and it's really bothering them, and they're concerned, there is a process that they could do. They get together a group of people, they sit around a table, and they make his dream to be good, so to speak. Which means, he says, I had a dream, and they tell him, it was a good dream, it was a good dream, it was a good dream. What's the point of doing that? So we have to understand that there are three general worlds around us. Okay? You have the world of action, reality we'll call it. You have the world of speech, which is less than reality, but it may sound very convincing and compelling. And then you have the world of thought. The world of thought is very distant from the world of reality. Sometimes it's only in your head. Nobody knows what you're thinking about. It's not even in the world of speech. So our sages tell us, if you had a bad dream, leave it in the world of thought. Don't allow it to come into the world of speech and then into the world of action. It exists. Maybe there's some truth to that dream on some level somewhere, but let it remain in the world of thought. Don't bring it into reality. And that's why traditionally, a person won't say and should not say if they had a bad dream. Discount it to yourself and say, it's just a dream, just a figment of the imagination. Nothing to worry about, nothing to pay attention. But if someone has a recurring dream, and it's very vivid, and it's going on for multiple nights, and they are concerned, and they're trying to push it aside, but they can't. So there is this procedure or this prayer that people do. They could get together with a group, and he says he has a dream, and the group of 10 people say, it was a good dream, it was a good dream, it was a good dream. So what you thought, and in your mind, you're trying to interpret it a certain way. Don't even tell them what it was. But they kind of push that, saying it's good, it's good, it's good, that it should channel when it comes into this world, so to speak, it should be in a positive way. Because one thing's for sure, even if a dream has a little truth to it, it says that every dream has some nonsense. And we're saying that the dream is entirely nonsense. But even if there's a little bit of truth and you interpret it in the wrong way, let's focus on the positive and push it into a positive in a positive format. So we say it was a good dream, it was a good dream, it was a good dream. But for starters, don't repeat the dream if it's negative. Number two, remind yourself that it's not bad, it's only a dream, it's not a message. But if it's persistent and it's constantly happening to you and it's not stopping, then you should know there is something that you could do about it, which again, it's like a last resort. There's even fasting that a person could do the next day. They could fast because they had a terrible dream and it's really bothering them. And they think maybe there's a heavenly decree against them. Maybe that's what's causing it. So we say, you know what? If you're really, really concerned, you could fast. And there's a process to do it. But generally speaking, the Jewish approach to dreams is immediately tell yourself, a dream is nonsense. Don't even let it fester in the world of thought. Just say, it's just a dream, my imagination running wild. Somebody asked the Rebbe once, what's the deal with dreams? How do we treat dreams? I never told him that it's a figment of the imagination. You dream what you thought about during the day, that's what you dream about by night. And the Rebbe went on to explain that many years ago, when someone lived in the shtetl, okay, or your social reach was somewhat limited, you knew that if you had a dream, you could say, yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday. And now that was just my imagination running wild. Okay? And if you had a dream about something out of the ordinary, which you did not think about in the last couple of days or ever, and you remember your thoughts, then a person said, hey, that's a dream. It means something. It's a message or it's a warning or whatever it may be. But today in our society, says the Rebbe, I'll give you an example. You went to work. Okay. You were on the train, depending how you got here. You were on the train. You were in a car. You saw a billboard. You overheard a conversation on the guy next to you. You saw the headline of the paper. You open up your phone and you see the feed running through on your social media, whatever it is. There's so much information that you're not even thinking about, but it's fed into you. You heard this, you saw that. If I ask you, did you think about, I don't know, vacation to Hawaii? You'll say no. But you did see or hear an advertisement about it. You go to sleep tomorrow night and you have a dream that you're in Hawaii and it's all vivid. You wake up, you say, hey, this must be a message. I was not thinking about Hawaii. But the Rebbe is telling this person in the letter, there's so much today that you see and hear in passing. It's like background noise. That it's almost impossible to trace back and say, I did think about that, I didn't think about that. Most of the dreams that a person has are just their imagination playing with them without reality. In other words, the rational part of the mind is not telling you, hey, that's impossible. It's not a prophecy. It's not some kind of message. It's actually an opportunity for you to be positive and remind yourself that dreams are your imagination. It's not a message. It's not some kind of indicator. It's not a warning. You know what it is? It's your mind. And the mind is a beautiful thing, but sometimes imagination just goes. And tell yourself it's positive. Think positive, and it'll be positive. It's very, very important because when it's in the world of thought, the next step, it comes to the world of speech, and you talk about it. And when you talk about it now, it's one world closer to you. And now when it's closer to you, now it's even closer to reality. So even if there's some little level of truth to it, don't focus on it. Remind yourself, tell yourself, quote, convince yourself that this must be imagination. But I never thought about it. How would I even have this interest in this concept in my mind? You think you didn't think about it, but you probably saw something, heard something, overheard something, right? You were in a store, there was some radio in the background. You were in an Uber, you heard something. There's so many different things that you don't remember now that you thought about it or you heard about it, crossed your mind, and it's there. I want to share with you a story that we read when we were little children. It's one of the Machanayim books, beautiful series of books in Yiddish and English for kids, stories of tzaddikim. But this story is about a fellow, very poor man. He lived in a small town in Ukraine. And it was very difficult financially. He always had problems. He couldn't make ends meet. It was tough. And one night he had a dream. And in the dream he hears, somebody tells him that in Krakow, under the bridge, the main bridge, there's a treasure. He wakes up and he says, Bela, his wife, wake up. I have amazing news. I have information that under the bridge in Krakow, there is a treasure. With your blessing, I'm going to Krakow and all of our financial issues will be solved. This is great. So he travels to Krakow, and it's a journey, and it takes weeks. And he has no proper money, and here he's walking and he's hitching rides, and in his mind, the riches are in Krakow. And he finally makes it to Krakow, and he gets there, and comes to the bridge, and as you can imagine, there's guards there. It's the main bridge. There's security. You can't just start digging. So he waits around, and he starts to come every few hours, and he notices when they change the guards and when it's the end of the shift. And there is a small period of time when one guard is kind of leaving and the other one is not there yet, that he could probably come in and start to dig. And he comes back the next day and the third day, and he devises a plan. He gets some shovels. And finally, the day comes. It's actually at night, and he takes a shovel and he starts to dig. And before you know it, he feels a big hand on his shoulder. It says, "You're under arrest. In the name of the law, what are you doing?" and he's shaking. He's going to be arrested. So he has a plan. He says, listen, my friend, I'll share with you what I'm doing. I'm not trying to spy. I'm not trying to cause any damage. But you know what? I'll share it with you, and we'll both be rich. He says, rich? What are you talking about? He says, I had a dream that under the bridge in Krakow, there's a treasure. So I came here to get the treasure. But listen, let me dig, and we'll split it. And the guy is laughing, the guard, and laughing. He can't control himself. He's like, you came from where? He said, it's far from here. You traveled here because you had a dream to dig? Let me tell you something, sir. I had a dream that in a small town in Ukraine, there's this poor fellow. He lives at the edge of the village. His wife's name is Bela. Under his oven, he has a treasure. Do you think I'm going to travel there and dig? He said, you know what? I think you're right. Turns around, goes right back home, and he says, Bela, we're taking apart the oven. The story is that they found the treasure under his oven. The idea is like this. Choose to be positive. And when that dream happens, remind yourself that there's enough sources in Jewish law and in Jewish thought that tell us that dreams today, there was a time in history when it was a form of prophecy, when it was a message, when we had the clarity and the control, we knew what we were thinking about. We knew this was not a thought that ever entered my mind, right? Properly. And we could say, hey, this is probably a message or some type of a warning. But today there's so much information that goes through our minds. It's not information or warnings or prophecy. It's our imagination without a rationale. Have a very positive day. Remind yourself that if it stays in the world of thought, if you have a bad dream, don't repeat it. Somehow twist it in your mind to be positive. And if you think good, it'll be good. It'll come into the reality of good. Make it good. Have a good day.